Alex Hormozi spent $10 million on cold email in just 90 days for acquisition.com. It generated crazy returns for his business portfolio. And you might note that I'm not a beginner myself when it comes to cold emailing. So I sat down and condensed Alex's crazy cold email success into 10 email tactics that you can use for your business right now. Plug and play, done, ready for you to use and generate leads from day one. So if you can sit still for 20 minutes or so, by the end of this video, you'll understand the fundamental difference between how amateurs and professionals think about email, why most people's approach is leaving millions on the table, and the specific tactical frameworks that you can implement immediately to transform email from an afterthought to your most profitable channel.
In this video, I'm going to show you how to turn $1,000 into $45,000 through email. And over the last 90 days, we spent just under 10 million emails from acquisition.com, and we generate tens of millions of dollars across our portfolio using email itself.
Right off the bat, Alex establishes the magnitude here. They're not dabbling. They spent nearly $10 million, generating tens of millions in revenue. The economics are simple but powerful. Every dollar spent on email returns $35 to $45. That's not a mistake. That's 35 to 45 times return. Some of our best case studies had that type of ROI, but if he's sending millions of emails, that's one of the best performing campaigns I've ever seen at that scale. Compare that to any other channel. Paid ads, you're lucky to get 3 to 5x. Content marketing, it takes months. Email gives you immediate 35 to 45x leverage. And the reason most people miss this is exactly what Alex admits himself. He hated money, apparently, because he avoided email for most of his career. The breakthrough insight he shares is that email is more profitable because you already paid to acquire the contact. Email is just a follow-up. Your only costs are software and whoever writes the emails. One writer can reach 10 million people. That's leverage businesses completely ignore.
Well, that's kind of like what email is, and people still don't do it, myself included. And part of the reason that making money on email is more profitable is because you actually already spent the time to acquire this contact. And so in a lot of ways, email is just follow-up. And so you spent the cost to acquire the lead. Now you're just reminding them that you exist. And so basically the only real cost is just whatever software you use and whoever or whomever you may have to pay in order to write the emails. That's pretty much it. And so one email writer can send an email to 10 million people, and that is a tremendous amount of leverage that you get in your business that a lot of people ignore. On top of that, email is one of the most consumed media platforms, and it hasn't died down. So 61% of people check their email multiple times per day. 20% of people check it multiple times per hour. It has almost the same consumption rate as social media in terms of how engaged some of the users are of people reading their emails every single day. And what's cool about email is that it's actually uniform across age groups. And so you can see between 15 and 24, 25 and 44, 45 and 64, and 65 plus, pretty much everyone, 90%, plus, or 84 the very end bracket there, read email all the time. If you're gonna master something, it's one that transcends age groups. And I'll bet you, even though we don't have the metric, it transcends countries as well. I would bet you that UK people probably respond similar to US people, probably even respond similar to Chinese people in terms of their email consumption. And I know just because I've gone back and forth with Chinese providers and warehouses and things like that, they're pretty responsive on email too. And so a massive, very invisible platform.
The consumption data here is critical. Email has the same engagement rate as social media, 61% checking multiple times a day, 20% checking multiple times per hour. But here's what separates email from every other channel. It's uniform across age groups, 15 to 24-year-olds, 25 to 44, 45 to 64, and 65 plus, all showing 84 to 90% reading email on the regular. You won't find that across any other platform where a 25-year-old and a 65-year-old are equally engaged. This transcends demographics and likely transcends countries. Alex mentions working with Chinese suppliers who are equally as responsive on email. It's a truly universal platform.
And so as I think about email, the objective of the email has one of two purposes. One is to increase the likelihood that this person purchases in the future or that they purchase. That's fundamentally it. And so basically has the exact same objectives as content. And so it's just a different form of content consumption, except where you can guarantee that you get delivery. Whereas when you make a post, the algorithm decides who gets to see it. When you send an email, basically your past performance determines whether or not they get to see it. And there's a couple of little tricks to make sure you get in the right email inbox and not get in the promo tabs. We'll go over some of that stuff. But big picture, you actually have the list and you send it directly to them.
Alex frames this pretty clearly. Email has two objectives: increase purchase likelihood or convert now. That's it. If you're not achieving either one of those, you're cooked. By the way, this is the same as content, but with a critical difference. You control the delivery. Social algorithms decide who sees your posts. With email, your past performance determines visibility, but you actually own the list. This ownership matters. You're not renting attention from a platform that could change the rules tomorrow. You have direct access, and as long as you maintain good sender reputation, you reach people directly.
If you're embarrassed, by the way, that you haven't sent email, then worry not, because I am too, and I will show you the first email sent to my list just not that many months ago. That's obviously within acquisition.com. The portfolio companies send emails all the time, but I hadn't sent anything to Mozy Nation. And so this was it. So I started with subject, is this on? And I just said that because I thought it was funny. I started with a quote that I like a lot, which is, it only takes 20 hours of focused effort to get proficient in any skill. The problem is most people waste years before they start the first hour. So I've been making content for 4 or 5 years now, and I had yet to send an email. And so that quote of mine felt rather appropriate for myself. The thing is that I think you can model something like this, like if it has been a minute for you, like you're like, I should have been emailing. It's okay. You can start whenever you want. And the day you start is the day you start getting 45 plus returns on the time and money you put into it.
At 3:10, we see Alex's first email. Subject line, is this on? He opens with his own quote about 20 hours of focused effort being enough to get proficient at any skill. Then he admits it took him 13 years to finally send an email. At Uplead, we found email to have the highest ROI out of any channel. If you're not emailing, start emailing today. This self-awareness is powerful because if someone at his level made this mistake for over a decade, you're probably making it too. He explained his reasoning, right? He's selective with his attention and he didn't want to send anything bad. I get it. He's picky with the written word because it carries weight, but this cost of perfectionism was leaving money on the table. The permission this gives everyone else is valuable. You can start whenever you want, and the day you start is the day you're going to start getting those 45x returns.
Now let's talk about different tactics. So first things first, everybody wants to talk about how much you can make from email, but no one talks about unsubscribing, right? No one wants, it's like the dirty other, oh yeah, people unsubscribe. Every time you send a communication out, there's going to be people who unsubscribe. And I don't see unsubscribing nearly as negatively as other people do. And I'll explain why. When I look at our people who show up to workshops, a lot of times they are people who unsubscribed. So it's not an insult. It's like they know who I am and they're in. I don't see it as a negative per se. Also, every single day, thousands of people unsubscribe from my Instagram, thousands of people unsubscribe from YouTube, but I just have more people who subscribe. And so I just see the process of advertising as letting people know about your stuff. And so if someone unsubscribes, they absolutely know about you and your stuff. And it doesn't necessarily mean they don't want to buy. It just might not mean that that form of communication or that particular inbox they opted in with is the one that they want to use. Fine, no big deal. So instead of trying to hide it, it's like probably if I see a brand try and make unsubscribing hard, I hate them. And so I have always tried to do the opposite of that. I think number one is that you want to make unsubscribing easy. Don't keep people captive. And let me explain by that is I don't want to keep sending emails to an uninterested segment of my list because it'll actually make my domain deliverability go down long term. By sending it for vanity metrics of, look, I sent more emails, I actually decrease the likelihood that the people who do want to read my emails actually get them. And so that's why you want to make unsubscribing easy, because if you make it hard, they might not unsubscribe, but then they go dormant, which is actually worse for you. So make it easy. I want to be real with you for a second. If you haven't sent email or you really don't send often, like once every 6 months or something, the first time you send an email, you're going to have a higher unsubscribe rate than normal. And that's okay. I call it shaking the trade. It's basically like pulling forward churn. It's the same thing if you correspond with customers who are on a recurring revenue business and you haven't been emailing them or haven't been reaching out to them, you will always get more churn. You'll get next month's churn and this month's churn all at once. And so the highest churn I ever had was on the first email I ever sent. And so it was like just over 1%, which is crazy, right? But now it's like 0.42 unsubscribe rate per email, which is fine. As long as we grow higher than that between emails, that's a good ROI. And it's like, you have to take the logical extreme here. If you are unafraid to email because you don't want to get unsubscribes, why do you have emails to begin with? It's kind of like saying, well, I don't want to post content because then people would stop following me. It's like, well, the only point of them following you is to advertise your stuff. And so if the logical extreme of this is just never do anything, then that's probably not the right conclusion.
This section is where Alex separates from the average email marketer. Most people are terrified of unsubscribes. They see every unsubscribe as a personal rejection. Alex sees it differently. Thousands of people unsubscribe from his Instagram and his YouTube daily, but more subscribe than unsubscribe, so it's a net positive. People unsubscribing doesn't mean they hate you. They know exactly who you are. That's the goal of marketing. They might not want that specific form of communication or use that particular inbox, but they're aware of you. The critical insight: keeping unengaged people actually hurts deliverability. You see, email providers track engagement. When you send to dead contacts who never open, you're training the algorithm that your emails aren't valuable. Eventually, even engaged subscribers stop seeing your emails because you end up in promotions or spam, making unsubscribing easy. It's not just ethic, because man, I'm routinely pissed off when I don't find the unsubscribe button, but it's also strategic. Clean your list of uninterested people so your engaged audience actually receives what you send. His first email had just over a 1% unsubscribe rate. Now it's 0.42% per email. As long as you grow faster than you lose those people, you're winning.
So HubSpot ran a really cool research study where they saw that they had an increase. So already insane ROI for email. They had a 791% increase in ROI from email from one thing, which is people who segmented their lists got way higher returns on email, which should be somewhat unsurprising, right? Like if you send the right emails to the right people, then they will be more likely to buy your stuff. So if I send a beginner email to a list of advanced people, they'll be like, this is not for me. And to the same degree, and also it doesn't have anything to do with the email. It might not be right for them. And to the same degree, if I send an advanced thing to people who don't have a business or want to start a business, then they're gonna be like, this doesn't apply. And so it's way less about how good the email is and so much more about who's getting it. And so segmenting the list is basically like if you have any qualifiers on your opt-in, so like revenue, or if they have a business or don't have a business, which are some of the ones that we have in our opt-in process, this allows us to send content that's more applicable to those people. And so when we have our list, we say, oh, let's just send this to the 500K plus. Let's just send this to the 5 million plus. Let's just send this to the 0 to 100K. And so a lot of people want to lie because they think they're going to get like a better experience if they go up, but like you're just going to get stuff that doesn't apply to you. So just be honest when you're putting your info in.
791% increase from one thing: segmentation. Not 79%, 791%. If you send beginner content to advanced people, they tune out. If you send advanced strategy to people who haven't started, it's irrelevant. The quality matters far less than whether you're sending it to the right person. Alex segments by revenue: 0 to 100K, 500K plus, $5 million plus. Each segment gets specifically relevant content for their stage. $1 million business doesn't need first time customer tactics. A startup doesn't need enterprise value optimization. Match the message to the audience, and suddenly your average email becomes incredibly valuable to the person reading it.
So let me pull up a sample email so we can break down the structure so you can think about it. Now, to be clear, you don't have to do this. I'm just going to explain what I was doing, and if it's useful for you, great. Number one, on the subject heading, I thought a lot about this because on some end, there's a lot of internet marketers and digital guys who, they split test the hell out of their subjects. And I thought about this more as like a podcast where it's like podcast episode X and then it just keeps going, because my thought, I'll explain, was if I can basically develop the brand of Mosey Money Minute to be very strong, then eventually it will get to the point where, independent of what I have after Mosey Money Minute, when people know that they always get value in the past when they read it, they'll just click. Going back and forth on this, I was like, I want to build the brand of my email to be strong. And so on one hand, you could say, well, if they know it's from you, then that could be the brand. But we send other emails as well that are not Mosey Money Minute. So I wanted Mosey Money Minute to have its own kind of like little space in someone's mind. That was a choice I made. You could obviously just have your subject be proof over promise. That's your call, but that's why I decided to stick with it. And that's what I've done. So right off the bat, I think about everything in terms of feedback cycles and reward. And so I want to reward every action that someone takes. And so if someone first reads the email, then if they've been rewarded in the past for Mosey Money Minute, they'll click and they'll open it. Now I need to reward them for that. So a lot of people think about behavior as what happened before that triggered someone to do something. But that's actually not how behavior works, and that's been proven. The way behavior works is that you did that thing because you did it another time in the past and were rewarded for it. So if you want to see why someone does something, look at what happens after they do it. Because when you do a behavior, you do it to get something to change or to improve your life in some way, right? Words I like, I start the email here because I want someone, even in less than the time it takes to read the email, to immediately be rewarded for clicking and opening. For me, a quote or tweet is something that's in one glance, they can be rewarded for taking the first action. That's the first thing I'm doing. Now, the next thing is that I have kind of the meat of my email. Now, for me, my meat of the email, I keep under, I think, 200 words because it's roughly a minute. And so that's been kind of like the Mosey Money Minute kind of promise. That being said, we also send other emails that are really long. So Layla sends emails to the kind of like the most qualified businesses on the list that we have that, generate the most revenue. And hers tend to be a little bit longer. And that's because she tends to teach more via story. I have a little bit more like tactical style. Her emails do great too. So I want to make sure that this doesn't seem like rule of law. I want to explain why I wrote my emails this way. So we have our tactic, and I very clearly, there's a lot of times where I'm like, man, I could put this other thing in. One concept, just keep it on one thing. Because as soon as you start, you're not writing a book here. It's just what is one very clear thing. And I just keep cutting it down until it's like, this is what's happening. And so you want to basically introduce a problem or condition that makes the solution viable. So no matter how good your product is, a stranger will believe you because you're biased. Okay, so that's a problem. If strangers don't believe you, okay, so the easiest way to overcome this is overwhelming social proof. Okay, there's a solution. But now, how do I do that? And so then I put a little extra line. And so if so few businesses do it, here's an easy tactic to display tons of proof you already have but aren't showing. This is one where they already have all this stuff. They're 6 inches away from gold, and we just need to cross the barrier. And so I just said, cool, if you're brick and mortar, print out every 5-star review, screenshot it across all review sites online, then frame it with $1 frames you can get from the dollar store, cover your lobby floor to ceiling with them, and see the PS statement for a real-world example. So that also, and that's a little bit of foreshadowing, I'll show you, for something else that we do in the email. Now, if you're online, then you read the one for online. After that, it's like, cool, I delivered my 1 minute of value that any business owner can immediately use in their business, because almost every business has a few 5-star reviews on some platform that they can immediately repurpose to get strangers to believe them more, and then ultimately sell more stuff. I have my little sign off, and underneath I have a CTA. So if, hey, if you're scaling your business, go here. If you want to start a business, go here. So this goes to school. This goes to acquisition.com for workshops, because that's for businesses that we're not necessarily going to do a deal with, or maybe we'll do one in the future. It's just an easy way for us to meet them. So it's just like, cool, come fly out. We'd love to meet you. Okay. So PS, I always have a PS statement in every email because beyond the headline, it's the most read part of the email. So not having a PS statement is PS stupid.
The structure breakdown is where tactical implementation begins. Alex's subject line approach, Mosey Money Minute, followed by a specific topic. He's building brand recognition for the newsletter itself rather than optimizing for each individual subject line. His reasoning, if he builds the brand of Mosey Money Minute to be consistently valuable, people will eventually open it regardless of what comes after because they've been rewarded in the past. This is a long-term brand play versus short-term optimization. Then comes psychology. He starts every email with words I like, a quote or a tweet that provides immediate value before reading the main content. This rewards the action of opening instantly and increases the likelihood that they'll open the next one. The meat stays under 200 words, roughly 1 per minute. Under promise, over deliver. If someone knows they'll get value in 60 seconds, they'll always make the time. CTA comes next, context specific to what they just read. Not generic, check out my course, but direct connection between the value provided and the next logical step. Finally, a PS statement. Beyond the headline, this is the most read part of any email. Not having one is PS stupid in his words. Use it for additional value, a meme, or another call to action.
Now let's talk about a different tactic. So mobile optimized design. So right now, 60% of global internet traffic is mobile devices. And what's crazy is that a lot of people's emails are not optimized for mobile viewership. And that's where a lot of people are actually going to be reading your thing. And so you want to make sure that you look at your emails on a desktop format and on a mobile format so that they display the right way for the viewing platform they're being viewed through. When you do that, all you do is, first objective of email, increase the likelihood they convert. And this is especially true if you had images to your emails. This is more like e-commerce does a lot of this. That's where like images can get totally messed up, not look good. It just looks unprofessional and totally plummets the click-through rates for your emails.
58 to 60% of email is read on mobile, yet most emails aren't optimized for it. If your email looks broken on mobile, you've destroyed your credibility with more than half your audience. This seems obvious, but most people don't actually test on mobile before sending. They write it in their platform, they glance at a preview, and they hit send. And then they wonder why their click-through rate is terrible. The fix is very simple. Look at every email on both desktop and mobile formats before sending. It's especially critical if you use images, which can get completely messed up on mobile.
Number 4, consistent layout/format. I tend to love templates. I love to just figure out what works and then do it over and over and over again. So in the beginning, you might experiment a little bit, but if you see that a certain format gets more responses or more click-throughs, then it's like, cool, let's just do that over and over again. And so you'll notice that the Mosey Money Minutes more or less have the same format. They have the thing, they have the content, they have the CTA, and then they have some sort of PS statements, or the CTA is the PS statement. But that's included in every single one of them. I want people to know what they're going to get. Think about McDonald's. It's like, I don't want any surprises. I'm expecting a Big Mac. I want fries. I want my Coke. And so today's Big Mac, fries, and Coke is different than yesterday's, but I don't want it to be different. It's not the same burger, but I want it to still be just as good. So let's rock on to the second one. Same thing, Mosey Money Minute, 391% increase in sales from one change. Okay, that's interesting. I'd be like, I would click that. So words I like. So this is the immediate reward, ideally for them clicking. So there's like, cool, I got some value from that. And I just use tested stuff because I just use the tweets that I know that people have shared the most. And so hopefully also you might get people who share your newsletter or your emails as well, which is kind of the point. Now, after that, I've got my content bucket. Again, this is under 200-ish words. I just try to remind people that I keep this promise. Like that's all, kept this under a minute. Awesome. Then I have my CTA and then I have my PS statement. And so you'll notice this very common theme. So similar subject, reward them for that, meat of the content, CTA, PS statement. You can alter like where the CTA is, where the PS statements, like these things I think you can alter around because a lot of times I just make memes for my PS statement. I don't think there's any science around it. I just think it's fun. You can do that, or you can obviously have your PS statement be your CTA for whatever it is. All of those are kind of viable. I don't like rules in general. The fundamentals are always going to be to reward for every step in the process.
Template-based structures. Figure out what works, then repeat. This is counterintuitive because everyone thinks they need to reinvent every email. But think about McDonald's. You don't want surprises. You want to know exactly what you're getting. Mosey Money Minutes have the same format. Quote, content, call to action, and then PS statement. People know exactly what to expect when they see his name. The structure stays consistent. You're building a brand within someone's inbox. You're not surprising them with random formats. He walks through a second example at 15 minutes and 27 seconds. A 391% increase in sales from one change, showing the exact same structure. Words I like, tactical content under 200 words, call to action, PS statement. The formula repeats because it works. I'll tell you about a simple way to ensure your outreach reaches the right people in the right format in just a moment. But first, let's continue breaking down Alex's deliverability tactics. If you're building an outbound engine and need verified contact data that actually converts, I've spent years developing exactly that at Uplead. We focus on real-time email verification and detailed targeting because the right person receiving the right message is 10x more valuable than volume. You can learn more at uplead.com. But for now, let's get back to the breakdown because Alex's approach to frequency and timing is where strategy meets execution.
So because I can provide value to you in under a minute, I'll also tell you what this tactic was. So speed to contact. So I believe in this so much, I almost started a fund of buying businesses just to implement this one tactic. So it's simple to understand. It's hard to do, but if you can do it in a few minutes. So you call leads within 60 seconds of opting in. So Harvard Business Review published a study that demonstrated an average of 391% increase in sales. 391% increase in sales. So let me ask you this. Right now, is there anything else that you have on your docket that could quadruple the sales of your business? No? Well, then that would basically mean that calling leads fast should be the first priority that you have because it could quadruple your sales. Because if there's nothing else that can do it, then that should be the priority of the business. And if you're like, man, I don't have the sales staff to be able to have that kind of coverage. Well, you can afford that sales staff with the 391% increase in sales that you're going to get as a result. I love tactics like this that are just massive unlocks in businesses. And that's the type of stuff that we go over in our scaling workshops, which is why that was the CTA.
The tactic in this email, speed to contact. Call leads within 60 seconds of opting in. A Harvard Business Review study showed a 391% increase in sales. Not a typo. 391% increase. Alex asked the critical question here. Is there anything else on your docket that could quadruple your business sales? No? Then calling leads fast should be your number one priority. If nothing else can 4x your sales, this should be number one. And if you claim you don't have the sales staff for that coverage, you can afford them with the 391% increase you'll get. These massive unlock tactics are what he covers in his scaling workshops. It makes the CTA contextually relevant to the value provided.
Next tactical nugget. So optimize preview text. So this is one that I actually learned more recently for our stuff. So maybe embarrassing, whatever. Optimizing preview text for the email. So, when you look at all of your emails, you see the bold subject, and then after that, you've got like that little bit of text afterwards. That little bit of text is kind of like when you hover on a YouTube video and it shows you a couple of clips, it's preview, right? And so that preview has a big impact on how many people choose to open the email. And so right now, it has, for us, had an increase of 24%. And just to give you an idea here, 24% of people, so 1 out of 4 people, check that text before they even open. And so that's what they reported. I would bet it's even higher than that. It takes 10 seconds to do this and is so worth it, because if you don't, then it'll just take the first 150 characters of your email, which might have just been like, hey, John, blah, blah, blah. Like it's not valuable, right? And so we want to pull the most valuable nuggets forward, especially things that induce curiosity.
Preview text optimization. That little text after the bold subject line has a huge impact on open rates. 24% increase for them, meaning 1 in 4 people check out that text before opening. It takes 10 seconds to optimize and it's massively worth it. If you don't, it'll just grab the first 150 characters of your email, which might be, hey, John, blah, 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 not valuable. Pull the most valuable nuggets forward, induce curiosity, make those preview characters count.
Next tactical nugget, clear CTA. So I'm not going to harp on like, of course, you want to have a reason to do it and you have a reason to do it now and tell them exactly what they get. Those are, CTA 101. But I think that having basically a continued interest CTA and then have a I want to take action and buy CTA are not terrible ideas to have in an email. And so I'm not saying like, I'm not one of these people who's like, only have one link, only have one CTA. I think you can have more than one, but it's more that you only want to have one per audience or per objective. Now, if you have 5, then that can get, kind of aggressive overall. But I think 1 or 2, you're safe as long as there's a clear reason that someone would click one versus the other.
Clear call to actions. But Alex breaks from conventional wisdom here. He's not dogmatic about only one link, only one CTA. He thinks you can have 1 or 2 as long as there's a clear reason someone would click one versus the other. One call to action per audience or per objective. If you have 5, that's aggressive, but 1 or 2 is safe if there's clear differentiation, like a continued interest option and a buy now option. Different audiences, different objectives, both served.
All right, let's rock another one. So Mozy Money Minute. So easy 21% profit increase for recurring businesses. So boom, reinforce. If you grow your business without fixing your problems, you grow your problems instead. Eek. All right. So annual renewal fees. So this works for any business, recurring or reoccurring, but especially recurring, obviously. So if you have a membership or recurring revenue model and keep people every year, this is a great profit tactic that adds a ton of revenue. So it's a one-time annual fee on top of your monthly. So it doesn't interfere with front-end sales because it happens a year later. So it's not immediate. So people don't not sign up because of this fee. And if someone stays a year, they're also very unlikely to leave. And so the fee is usually the price of about 1 to 3 months. And by adding it in, you add 8 to 24% to your revenue without incurring any cost. So if you have call it a 20% margin business and you add another 20% to revenue with no added cost, you double the profit of the business from one thing, which is by adding an annual renewal fee in. And so this allows you to keep your advertised pricing, because that's what influences your conversions, whatever your monthly price is, but then also get the benefit of having the profit of basically a price that's about 8-ish to 25% more than your current in terms of annualized. And so, for example, if I charge $39 a month, I might make my annual renewal $99. So that's 2 months. This takes my annual revenue per customer from $468 to $567. That's a 21% increase. And so it makes my effective monthly rate $47 per month. So look at the difference here. But if I had it at $47, I might convert significantly fewer customers. And so this kind of blends the benefits of a lower cost up front, but gets the benefits of the higher price. And that's why it's such a cool tactic. Very effective if you use it well. So again, CTA, and then this one was a funny one where the other ones were more tactical. This one is like, hey, here's how it's just a funny meme.
Another email example, a 21% profit increase from annual renewal fees. This is a one-time annual fee on top of the monthly subscriptions. It doesn't interfere with the front-end sales because it happens a year later. People don't avoid signing up because of it. If someone stays a year, they're unlikely to leave. The fee is typically 1 to 3 months worth. By adding it, you add 8 to 24% to revenue without incurring costs. If you have a 20% margin business and you add 20% revenue with no added costs, you double the profit from one thing. For example, $39 a month with a $99 annual renewal, 2 months, it takes the annual revenue per customer from $468 to $567, a 21% increase. It makes the effective monthly rate $47, but if it was advertised as $47 up front, it might convert fewer customers. This blends benefits of lower cost up front with higher price benefits.
It actually brings me up to the next point before I get to the next email, which is how often should you send email and to whom should you send it? Big picture, after talking to the best email marketers I knew before deciding to start my newsletter, number one is the perfect cadence seems to be around 3 times a week. All right. Now, again, I don't like rules. And if you hate rules as much as I do, then nothing is a rule. All right. You could send 2, you could send 1, whatever. But most people found that basically the more often you email, the more you will convert. It's kind of like more content. But there is a spot where people are like, I'm getting bothered. But the thing is that's where I feel like putting more effort into making the emails high quality pays dividends. Because think about it like this. If you send someone stuff that always makes them money, then how much would they like you to send them? Tons. And so that's why I'm a big fan of, like, I don't really have promotional emails per se. I'd rather just have every email be valuable and then just say like, hey, if you found this valuable, you can go here. And that way I don't have to balance like what's my give ask ratio or anything like that. It's like, I'm just going to only purely provide value here, just like content. And if you want to take next steps towards doing or working with us or something like that, then you click the link that's made easily and available to you. So to me, I see like just having your link or like what you do or whatever your lead magnet is in there is kind of like having your link in bio. So like if they want to find out more, you just make it easy for them. So cadence wise, if you haven't started yet, start with once a month and then you can move on. But I will say this, and this is the thing that broke the barrier for me, is that I actually was like, okay, how many emails do I want to send? And so I said, okay, I will commit to twice a month. And so I actually sat down and wrote 24 emails, and it took me like half a day. And then I thought, well, shoot, I could have been doing this off a half day's work. I could have been emailing my whole list for a year. And so after I saw how, I don't want to say easy it was, but how I could do it, I then decided to commit to doing it. And now we do significantly more than that. But that was kind of like if you just write 12 emails and you're like, cool, I've actually written all my emails for the year, and then everything else on top of that's bonus. And the reason I'm even making this video, because it's not typical for me to talk about something that I haven't done for an extended period of time. But I had such a positive response from Mozi Nation, from the Mozi Money Minute, that I thought I would make this video for you. Because honestly, like this is I would say honestly, one of the biggest mistakes I made in my career was I waited so long to email. And actually almost all my businesses, like Gym Launch, I didn't email until like 2 or 3 years in, which is insane. It's just saying no to money. And I should have just done it. It was just the amount of effort that it took. I didn't want to add something else to my plate because I was always so spread thin. But now that I understand how much the return for email per unit of effort, it's totally worth it. And I'll give you a side note, like we didn't do any email follow-up on school for a different reason. We had some technical stuff because we want to do it through the platform. And then as soon as we started doing email follow-up, we got a 40% lift in conversion. So it's like, dear God, like what else is going to get you that kind of lift? And again, it's free.
The frequency question. The best email marketer suggested 3 times per week is optimal. More emails generally means more conversions, but there's a point where people feel bothered. The solution: make every email valuable. If you send stuff that consistently helps people make money, they're going to want more of it, not less. The give to ask ratio dissolves when you only provide value with an easy option to go deeper. Alex started with a twice per month commitment. He wrote 24 emails in a half a day, proving he could maintain the cadence. That removed the mental barrier. Now he sends significantly more, but starting manageable got him started. He admits that this is one of the biggest mistakes of his career, waiting so long to email. Jim launched in an email for 2 to 3 years, just saying no to money. For school, as soon as they started email follow-up, they got a 40% lift in conversion. What else gives you that kind of lift for free? His advice: start with once a month. Write all 12 emails in advance, block them out, then every time you feel motivated, add more as a bonus. Don't commit to a cadence you have to force. Have a quality threshold. If you have 2 good ones, send 2. If you have 4 good ones, send 4. 0 good ones, send 0.
Let's talk about tactical nuggies, which is the actual stuff inside of the email. And so we want email, if you think about the hypothetical ideal email, it should be one that looks like emails that you would exchange every day. And so oftentimes emails that you exchange every day are pretty much all text, a handful of sentences, and then that's about it. Maybe a link, maybe not a link. There's usually not a lot of images. And so we want our emails to approximate that as closely as possible, because the equal opposite of that is that it looks like the Vegas Strip inside of the email, right? That looks like 100% promotion, which then the algorithm, AI is pretty smart nowadays. They're like, oh, this is just promotion. And so that they can put it into the promo tab. And so you want it to just look like an email. And so you want it to be as much text as possible. For us, we don't send images. And if you do have the link, you've got 1, maybe 2 links in there max. And we've also noticed that if we put more money stuff in an email, it tends to get a higher percentage in the promo tab. And so I try to remove money language from the text itself to increase the likelihood it gets in the right place. If you're like, why do I even bother making it only plain text? Why do I even bother only, limiting the number of links? Why do I bother having, less money in the title? Why do I even bother asking them to reply? Why don't I just send it to them automatically for whatever the lead magnet is? Well, I'll tell you why. Right now, for B2B, 16.9% of marketing emails don't even get into the inbox, let alone promo tab. They don't even make it. And so that's because of your domain authority. And so basically, you have a reputation with the email servers on how good or how high quality the emails that you send are. And so by doing these steps, it's kind of like 100 golden BBs. There's no one silver bullet that solves all of this stuff. It's just consistently providing emails that people engage with and that they do click and that they do open, that they do read. Those are all indications that the stuff that you're sending is high quality and that it's improving their overall email experience. And so just like every other platform, I will make this very strong statement, which is don't try and figure out hacks. Try and simply align what you do with the objective of the platform. The objective of an email provider is that they provide the highest quality email experience and sift out the fewest important emails, because think about a terrible experience. If someone's like, hey, I sent you this email, and I'm like, I didn't get it. And they're like, yeah, I sent it. And then I look and I'm like, Google's is taking all these important emails. I might consider switching servers. I would say that's the worst thing that can happen. So that's why they will let emails through. The equal opposite of that, the false negatives, is when I'm like, man, the filter on this spam is so weak. I'm just getting all these spam emails constantly. Now, that'd be less likely than the first scenario, but still an increase in likelihood that I might consider switching email providers. And let me give you a 201 advanced tactic. If you want an even higher click-through rate and deliverability rate, make the link something that's Google native. And so if I want to send a YouTube link, then that'll probably have a higher deliverability. If I want to send a sales letter, I can have it be accessed in Google Drive because they understand what the file is. If I want to send a VSL, I can also have it uploaded to Google Drive. And so sometimes these kind of like hokey, more duct taped look together type assets that you might send, sometimes they actually convert even better. So if you haven't tested it out, worth a shot.
The tactical fundamentals. Make emails look like emails you exchange every day. Mostly text, a handful of sentences, maybe a link, usually not too many images. You want to approximate normal email communication as closely as possible. The opposite is a Vegas strip email. It's full of graphics and formatting. It's screaming promotion. The algorithm recognizes this and filters it to the promotions tab. You want it to look just like regular email, as much text as possible, one or two links max. They've noticed more money language in emails gets higher promotions tab percentage. So remove money language from all the text in your emails. It's going to increase the likelihood of reaching the primary inbox. Why bother with all this? For B2B, 16.99% of all marketing emails don't even reach the inbox. Not the promotions tab, I'm talking completely blocked. That's because of domain authority and sender reputation. You have a reputation with email servers on how high quality your emails are. By doing these steps, no images, limited links, less money language, you're getting people to reply. You're signaling your emails are valuable communications people want to receive. Just like every other platform, don't try hacks. Align what you do with the platform's primary objective. Email providers want to provide the highest quality email experience to their users, so they filter out unimportant emails. If they block important emails, people might switch servers. If they let through too much spam, people might switch. So they're very careful about deliverability.
And let me give you a 201 advanced tactic. If you want an even higher click-through rate and deliverability rate, make the link something that's Google native. And so if I want to send a YouTube link, then that'll probably have a higher deliverability. If I want to send a sales letter, I can have it be accessed in Google Drive because they understand what the file is. If I want to send a VSL, I can also have it uploaded to Google Drive. And so sometimes these kind of like hokey, more duct taped look together type assets that you might send, sometimes they actually convert even better. So if you haven't tested it out, worth a shot.
Here's an advanced deliverability tactic. Use Google native links. I'm talking YouTube links, Google Drive links, Google Docs. These have higher deliverability because the email provider, often Gmail, they recognize them and they trust them. Sending a sales letter, host it in Google Drive. Sharing a video, put it on YouTube. Sending content, make it a Google Doc. These duct tape solutions sometimes convert better than the polished custom landing pages because they can actually reach the inbox.
Next nugget is A/B testing subject lines. So I told you that I'm trying to build the brand of Mosey Money Minute, and so I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit of short-term open rate so that long-term, the audience that becomes hardcore about Mosey Money Minute will just always open the Mosey Money Minute. But even so, the things after Mosey Money Minute will still have an influence on that. And so having an A/B split test for your headline or your subject will test for a small percentage, an A/B, and then once it has the winner, we'll then send the rest of the list, the winning combination. And this, more and more platforms are getting intelligent about this. Like YouTube does the same thing for thumbnails and headlines. Because some of you guys are like, I see you're switching this out. It's like, duh, there's a split test tool. Of course, we're going to split test it. But the same thing works for email. So that's a perfect segue to, okay, well, how do I get people to opt into my list? And so what I want to do is I'll read you the email that comes in after you opt in. And so one of the things that I do is I like to peel, like when I write my books, I always inevitably write a couple chapters that are really valuable chapters, but don't flow with the whole book's kind of theme, but they're still really good.
While building the Mosey Money Minute brand long term, Alex still acknowledges that what comes after the brand name matters. A/B split testing. Send to a small percentage with two variants, then send the winner to the rest. Of the same approach works for YouTube thumbnails and article headlines. More platforms are getting intelligent about this. Test everything you can, but don't let testing paralyze you. The difference between a good and great subject line might be its 5 or 10% open rate, but the difference between sending emails and not sending them is infinite.
And so rather than just like toss them or use them as like a YouTube script, I still finish them and make them book quality, but I just peel them out and say, hey, I'll just give this to you when you opt into my list. And I have other chapters that I've written that, like, when we do our next launch, I'll have those as bonuses for doing it. And so the only people that get them, though, is the people who are on the list. And so I like to have little bonuses that are platform specific that give people reasons to also be subscribed there. And so it's like, if I could do something like that on YouTube, I would, but I have to do it through a link. So at least on email, I can make something that gives people a reason to sign up beyond just immediately getting tactics that will always make them more money. This one breaks the mold, but I want to walk through why I think this email is important. And so first thing is, I have a little bit of anticipation. I've got a big announcement that's coming, right? And as long as you're subscribed, you're going to find out about it first. On top of that, I deliver on my promise. That's reinforcing them opting in general. And then on top of that, you want them to engage with the email. So there's a couple things here. So when you reply to an email, then remember I said earlier about the promo tab? Well, when someone replies to an email, then you kind of like get reinforced in terms of the algorithm of the server, like, oh, this is something that they're engaged with. And so you want people to engage. And so for us, once you reply yes, then we send you the chapter. So that gives them a reason to do it. And so you can have your opt-in have a widget. When they opt in, explain the value of why they should stay on, not just get the widget, because I think that's just as or more important. If someone opts into your list just to get the lead magnet, then they just want the lead magnet. They don't want regular communication from you. So I want to sell them on regular communication from me. Plus, by the way, here's that thing. And I put that near the end because it's like you have their attention until you give them the immediate reward that was promised, which you obviously have to do. But I would rather say, hey, by the way, here's the other things that you're going to get that I didn't tell you about. So it's like, I want to surprise and delight with the stuff that I'm providing them before I give them the other thing that, of course, I'm going to provide. It's like you have this tiny, tiny moment where they have huge motivation. And so it's like, you just want to capitalize on it. And think about everything as reinforcement loops. And so people opted in for this lead magnet. They can get the email by replying yes. Now, I also want to resell them on doing this. So inside the secret chapter, it reveals things like how to get people to engage with your stuff who otherwise wouldn't. So whenever I get a new market, I almost always start with this: how to make your advertising 9.5 times as profitable. There are two things you need to pull this off, and it's on page 5. So putting the extra page is like, oh, this is actually like, it's right in there.
Opt-in strategy. Alex takes chapters he wrote that are valuable but don't flow with his book's themes. He finishes them to book quality and then gives them to people that opt into his list. See, they're platform-specific bonuses that give people a reason to subscribe. The opt-in email is masterfully constructed. It builds anticipation for announcement, delivers on promise, then gets them to engage by replying. Why make them reply, you say? When someone replies to an email, it signals to the algorithm that this is an engaged communication, not spam. It reinforces sender reputation. He makes them reply yes to receive the lead magnet chapter. Both delivers value and improves deliverability. Inside the lead magnet, he resells them on staying subscribed. Lists specific value from future emails. This is critical. Most people assume because someone opted in, they want to stay subscribed. But people opt in for lead magnets all the time and then immediately just ignore future emails. You need to explicitly sell them on ongoing communication value. You see, he has their attention until he gives the immediate reward he promised. So he wants to surprise and delight with other things they're getting before giving them that thing. You have this tiny moment where you have huge motivation. Capitalize on it. Think about everything as reinforcement loops. People opted in for a lead magnet. They get it by replying yes. Now resell them on staying. Inside the secret chapter, he lists specific tactical value. How to get people to engage who otherwise wouldn't. how to make advertising 9.5x more profitable, specific page numbers for tactics, multiple valuable things they're getting just by replying yes. He sold them in 4 lines on why to stay subscribed. Then all the rest is just getting them to reply so he can avoid the promotions tab. The alternative scenarios are bad. Give a bad lead magnet or immediately send with nothing else. They never unsubscribe or they never check again. Or they follow the steps, they read the lead magnet, and they say, all that wasn't worth it. That keeps him up at night. He always wants to give a positive return on time relative to anything else someone could consume.
And so if we're talking about open rates, then the next thing that you're going to want to talk about is click-through rates, because fundamentally you want them to take action. And so a lot of the market of email marketers has actually shifted towards tracking CTR over open rates. And I think the biggest reason for that was because Apple privacy laws have made it very difficult to track open rates. And so I'll give you what our stats are just as maybe a benchmark. So for us over the last 3 months, our average open rate is just under 36%, so it's 35.7. And our average CTR is 8.5. So we have a very strong CTR. So I don't know how accurate the open rate stat that I just shared is. I just know that that's what we get reporting back on. But CTRs we feel very confident on. That CTR typically will get parsed between two things. One is percentage of all people you sent it to who took action or clicked. And then also percentage of people who opened who clicked. So it's like, okay, so if I had 100,000 people and I got, 30,000 to open my email and I got 10,000 to click, then it would show a 33% of people who opened clicked, but overall I would have a 10% of the 100,000, 10,000 who actually clicked and took the next step. And so for us, because it's 8.5, it'd be 8,500 for every 100,000 that we send, which is pretty crazy. It's pretty good. And so that is what I would be optimizing all my effort for, but I'd be optimizing that over a longer period. So think about it less about each email, but think about what my overall CTR is for my emails in general, because there are some emails that you're like, you don't need to make the quote click ask as hard, but we want to balance that over time. So we're kind of like depositing before we withdraw a little bit.
Open rates versus click-through rates. The industry shifted towards tracking click-through rate over open rate, partly because Apple privacy laws made open rates hard to track, but also because clicks represent actual engagement and action. Alex's stats over the last 3 months: 35.7% average open rate, 8.5% click-through rate. It's a very strong click-through rate. He's confident on open rate and accuracy, but very confident on click-through rate. Click-through rate gets reported in 2 ways: percentage of all people sent to who clicked, and percentage of people who opened who clicked. So 100,000 people, 30,000 open, 10,000 click equals 33% of openers clicked, but 10% of the total list clicked. For them, that's 8,500 for every 100,000 emails sent. It's exceptional. That's what to optimize for, but optimize over longer periods. Think about overall click-through rate for emails in general, not each individual email. Some emails don't need hard click asks. Balance that over time. Deposit before you withdraw.
I'm going to give you 3 timing tactics around emails. These are all just golden BBs, things that'll just give you tiny little lifts in terms of your overall performance. And so if you're sending, let's say, 1 email a week, then you might as well maximize the likelihood and effectiveness of that email. And so if you're B2C, it seems like Mondays and Tuesdays tend to be better days overall. And so there's an average increase in open rate of about 18% for B2C, so business consumer. Now, if you're B2B, this is kind of interesting, it's Wednesday. That's actually the bigger lift day, and actually is about comparable to the B2C lift. So I see that as like, there's just a time period for more people that consumers are more distracted, call it, on Mondays and Tuesdays, whereas business people, B2B, are like working Mondays and Tuesdays. Like they get to catch their breath on Wednesday. Now, I could just be adding a narrative to this, who knows? But fundamentally, the stats are there, and this is across zillions of emails. I got that from Neil Patel. He's an awesome marketer. And so he shared that with me in terms of days. The last tactic is around what time of day. So that is days of week. But the next is time of day. And so it seems like there's 2 sweet spots that occur. And one is basically right before lunch and right after lunch. So it's like 10 to noon and then 1 to 3 are the kind of like these sweet spots where they open. The first thing in the morning, I think, is typically a very competitive time because there's so many actual real business emails that they're going through that they're like, well, I gotta deal with this stuff first. If you kind of slide in those times, you tend to see bigger improvements. Now, that'll be more specific for businesses that are local. When you're across time zones, I wouldn't lose too much sleep over it. For us, we do all of our stuff off PST, but I know that I've got a 3-hour window if I'm just looking at US, and if half my audience is international, which it is, that's going to be more relevant for the people who only transact in one time zone.
Timing tactics. For B2C, Mondays and Tuesdays show an 18% increase in open rates. For B2B, Wednesdays is the sweet spot with a comparable lift. The theory: consumers are more distracted early in the week. Business people are working on Monday and Tuesdays pretty hard and then catching their breath on Wednesday. Could be adding a narrative to the data, but fundamentally, the stats are there across millions of emails sent from Neil Patel's research. Time of day. There's two sweet spots here: 10 a.m. to noon and 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Not first thing in the morning when people are dealing with urgent business emails. Slide in during natural breaks when people are more receptive. That said, for companies across time zones, these optimization windows, they matter less. They do everything in PST, but they know they have a 3 to 4 hour window for the US alone, and half the audience is international. It's more relevant for business operating in one time zone. Focus on fundamentals first: the right message, the right audience, clear value, and then optimize timing.
So with that being said, let's look at this puppy. So this email did exceptionally well. This is Mosey Money Minute about testimonials that convert. And so the perspective: rich people buy time, poor people buy stuff, ambitious people buy skills, lazy people buy distraction. And so I put that one in there because for the week, it was a super high performer in terms of tweets. And this email also got plenty. It's so funny because I got so many tags of people screenshotting my email and putting that on their story, which amazing, right? Because normally email lists only grow from you driving it. But how amazing would it be if your email list itself brought other people in? Right. And that's, at least for me, that's my goal. So the actual tactical nugget, I'll give it to you right now. So turning testimonials into ads is very profitable, but often very tough. So it's like, cool, there's a problem, right? And so the main reason is people suck at making testimonials. After reviewing all the testimonials and what separated the best from the rest, there was one thing the top 4 all had in common, which was a pain-based hook. And so these were my top 4 hooks of all time. This was just for Gym Launch specifically. So I looked over 2,500 testimonials. And so these are the top 4 hooks. So we were 2 months away from shutting our doors. We were barely making enough to survive. So this is different ads. I paid payroll, rent, and I'd finish the month with $0 of profit. I pay all my expense every month, work all day, and end up with $0 of profit. So kind of interesting that there's 2 $0 of profit in the top 4 of all time. Different guys. There was no script there. Like that's like my marketer hat's like interesting. Zero. They both said $0 of profit, which I find fascinating. If those hooks, and the hook is one of the most important parts of any ad, then we should obsess about what the testimonial hooks are so we can get more people to watch them. And so then it's like, okay, so the next time you record a testimonial or ask for one, don't ask them how life was before they started working with you, because they're going to give you this very long story. It's not going to, it's be hard to find a really good hook. So instead, just ask them for their worst moment. Just say, what was the worst moment? Because that's what all of these were, is a moment. And so the moments are what makes hooks. The details are what make them powerful. And so it wasn't just like, oh, we were struggling. It says we were barely making enough to survive. We were 2 months away from shutting our doors. Like that's much more visceral than stuff was hard, right? And so then, of course, we have our CTA per use. And one of the things that I've learned with CTAs across content, including email, is a lot of people do the same copy paste CTA, or I even see YouTubers like take their mini ads and just like slice them in. They're wearing a different shirt or it's a different energy or whatever. I think that's a huge mistake. It's like, if you think about the reason that you make stuff, it's to increase the likelihood that people convert in the future or to convert them now. And so if you want to increase the likelihood that they convert, then why wouldn't you just take, like, if that's the most important part, short term, not long term, then why wouldn't you take the extra, minute or 30 minutes even to just like make it contextual? And so if you've noticed, even my YouTube videos like this, the CTA for this video was around the email. It's contextual, right? If I have a thing for beginners, then it would probably be around school. If I have something that's really high level around like enterprise value, then scaling workshops for acquisition.com or the portfolio itself would be the CTA. And so making the CTA itself obviously related to the content, but also how you bridge into the CTA.
The best performing email: testimonials that convert. The tactical nugget: after reviewing 2,500 testimonials from Gym Launch, the top 4 all had pain-based hooks. They weren't generic, things were hard, but they were specific moments. We were 2 months from shutting our doors. I paid all the expenses and ended up with 0 profit. 2 of the top 4 mentioned $0 of profit. No script, different people, but both hit on that specific pain point. If hooks are the most important part of any ad, these are the best hooks. Then obsessed about testimonial hooks. The insight: don't ask how life was before working with you. Ask for the worst moment. Just ask, what was the worst moment? Moments make hooks. Details make them powerful. Not we were struggling, but we were barely making enough to survive. We were 2 months from shutting our doors. Much more visceral than the generic stuff was hard. People screenshot this email and share it on their stories, which is amazing because normally email lists only grow from you driving the growth. But imagine if your email list itself brought other people in. That's the goal.
And so this is, if you like tactics like these to grow your business, you'll love our, actually, this is a terrible fucking CTA. I should have said something more around, I should have linked this more to testimonials. So room for improvement, but this one still did really well. And so, yeah, it's like FYI, 25% of our rooms over $5 million in revenue and 50% over $1 million. So it just kind of gives an idea of the quality of the room that people can go to. Stay rich. And then I have a funny meme at the end because I like memes. And so big picture, same format, boom, reward them for opening, boom, reward them for reading, add your CTA in the middle, make it contextual. And if you do that even once a month, you won't make less money.
Contextualize call to actions. Alex emphasizes making every call to action contextual to content. If talking about testimonials, call to actions should relate to testimonials or customer success. If discussing advanced strategy, link to advanced strategy resources. Most people use template call to actions or pre-recorded mini ads just sliced in. He thinks that's a huge mistake. If the reason you make content is to increase conversion likelihood and call to action is the most important part, why wouldn't you take the extra 30 minutes to make it contextual? He does this in his YouTube videos too. Call to action for this video is around email. If he has something for beginners, a call to action would be around school. If it's high level around enterprise value, the call to action would be scaling workshops or the portfolio itself. Make the call to action related to content and bridge it naturally. He admits his call to action in this particular email could have been better. He should have linked more directly to testimonials rather than just general workshops. It's room for improvement, but still it performed well. The PS statement with a meme because he likes memes. Same format, reward for opening, reward for reading, and a contextualized CTA. If you're ready to build a systematic outbound engine like Alex describes, the foundation is reaching the right people with the right message. That's exactly what we built UpLead to solve. Real-time verified contact data with detailed targeting so you're not wasting any time on bad leads or bounced emails. We've seen companies transform their entire growth trajectory by finally having reliable data to build their outreach on. Whether you're doing cold email, you're building account lists for your sales team, or you're segmenting audience like Alex recommends, having accurate contact information is non-negotiable. Check out uplead.com to see how we can help you build that foundation, because without the right data, even the best email strategy falls apart. The bottom line from Alex's breakdown, email isn't dead, your approach is. Most people treat email as an afterthought. I know we did initially, sending occasional promotional blasts with no strategy, no segmentation, no consistent value, and they wonder why they get terrible results. Alex proved that with systematic thinking, clear objectives, audience segmentation, consistent value delivery, and obsessive attention to deliverability fundamentals, email becomes one of the highest leverage activities in your business. 35 to 45x ROI isn't hype. It's what happens when you actually implement these principles correctly. Start with 1 email per month if that's all you can commit to. Write them all in advance if that helps you get started. Focus on providing genuine value in under 200 words. Make unsubscribing easy. Test your emails on mobile. Make sure to use plain text only. Get people to engage by replying and build your sender reputation over time. The companies winning with email, they're not doing anything magical. They're just being consistent, they're providing value, and respecting both the algorithm and their audience. If Alex can admit he wasted years avoiding email despite building multiple 8-figure businesses, you can admit you should probably start taking it seriously too.